Okay, well, what would you do, and who do you side with here, the husband or the wife? And it's actually her best friend that is at the center of all this, and her husband's the one that's kind of making the odd stance here that she doesn't agree with. I think she's thinking she needs to rat out her best friend's cheating, and here's why. In the email she sent to us, mail at kvjshow.com, she said, "My best friend is cheating on her husband. And I'm not sure that I would have known or found out about it if I hadn't just busted her in the act.
Oh, no.
We were out for a day together doing some shopping, and we said goodbye in the parking lot. And then as I'm walking to my car, I realized that I had left a bag back in the store. I go back to get it. Stop, pop off, get something else. Got a little bit distracted while I was in there. Probably 25, 35 minutes pass. And then as I'm exiting the mall, I see my girlfriend in a car with another man that is not her husband, and they are making out. I didn't come over and break anything up. I just made sure that I knew what I saw, and I asked her about it later.
Oh, no.
When I did, she confessed that she has been having an affair for several months with her boss, and that's who was in the car with her.
Oh, no.
She told me that she was no longer in love with her husband, and that she was planning on divorcing him. She told me that she was going to confess everything to her husband and say, look, I'm just not in love with you, and I've decided to move on, and I'm going to move out. Well, she was kind of hanging on, waiting for this big shoe to drop. 4 months later, it hadn't. And so I said to her, I said, okay, you said 4 months ago that something was going to happen, and I see you and your husband hanging out like everything is okay. And I said, why haven't you said anything to your husband yet? He said, well, things have just gotten messy and, we're trying to work things out and blah, blah, blah. But as we continue on the course of this conversation, she reveals to me that, guess what? She's picked up an STD. She says it has to be from the boss because that's the only other person that she's been with. And I said, all right, well, no more of this. I was calm, cool for 4 months, but you got to tell your husband immediately what's going on, and that's not fair to him that you're now walking around with an STD. She's like, oh, no, I will. Now, fast forward a month later, and my best friend has now stopped answering my text because I keep asking her. I'm like, hey, have you said anything to your husband yet? Try calling her. No luck. Try stopping by to see her. And she seems to be in places where she is not, where I used to be able to find her. She's completely avoiding me. I even drove by her house the other night, and her car was there. So she's clearly avoiding me, doesn't want the conviction that I am bringing.
Wow.
And I am very confident she's not said a word to her husband. And he is now sleeping with a wife that has an STD. I told my husband, I said, you know what? I've given her a chance. She will not do the right thing. I don't even know if I consider us to be friends anymore. And I'm going to go to her husband, and I'm going to tell him what I know. My husband's like, this is going to be very messy. You should not get involved. This is not your job to do or say anything. He really doesn't want me getting involved, but what do you think? I feel like what she's doing is wrong. I can't believe she would do this. I don't even know who my best friend is anymore, but I think she needs to be called out on it, and I've given her ample chances to do so. What would you do, Virginia, if you were in this situation?
I kind of agree with your husband that it's not your circus, not your monkeys. But when it comes to protecting him, he is unsuspecting. He could get an STD from this. This is so not cool of her to do. Is there a way for her to get the information to this guy anonymously? And you don't need to be friends with this girl anymore. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. This girl is not the kind of person you want in your life. She's drama, she's gross, she's mean, she's just, you don't need this girl.
What if you just followed him around for, 3 or 4 days, and every time he parked, leave a note, you need to get tested, dog? If someone did that to me, I'm like, what does this mean?
Just leave him a note and say, look, your wife is cheating on you with her boss, and she has a new STD that she got from that affair. Please protect yourself.
Mm-hmm. She feels like she needs to do something. Her conscience is going off. And I understand that. That would be really tough to ignore and turn down the volume on that. And
totally.
she feels like she needs to do something. Her husband's like, look, any move that you make, you're going to get embroiled in this. You don't want the drama. I don't want you going through the drama. This is going to get messy.
You don't want this crazy former best friend to now have some vendetta against you. And she sounds like she's going off the deep end. You got to back away from her quietly.
I would absolutely. I mean, you don't want to be lying around with this person as a friend. Yeah.
This is no longer your friend. You're not trying to save some relationship with her. She's a bad girl.
Well, it's causing you distress.
Yes.
That's not at that point, what are you doing?
But you do need to anonymously figure out how to let him know what's going on behind his back and then have nothing to do with it anymore. It's not your drama. You don't need to be involved in it.
And if the wife has an STD and she knows this and she's willingly sleeping with her husband and she does not disclose that, that's illegal. You can't do that. If you know you have something and there's proof of that and you're not telling your partner, it can get messy on a legal aspect.
61% of people right now said that they would go to the husband and let him know. So a majority of people would. And it sounds like you've provided a way where you can at least try to. Now, look, I'm sure things will blow up and then your best friend might come to you and she might get in your grill. Which it's unbelievable when people are wrong sometimes how they double down on being wrong. Be like, okay, so you're wrong for not telling him and you're going to come at me?
Well,
like,
that's
I'm
why
the one that's done something bad?
That's why I would rather see her do it anonymously.
But she may put two and two together.
Oh, she's going to put two and two together.
And she's likely going to, when the husband is like, oh, so you've been cheating. And she's like, how did you find out?
I found this weird cryptic note on my window. Well, I've only told one person.
Yeah, you'll likely hear from your former best friend again, but not in a nice way.
What you got to do is call her out, film it, and then upload it to TikTok. That's what everyone does now. I mean, that's the way, right?
And we can offer you a platform. It's called KVJ.
Now, Mo is saying, well, who's saying that she's sleeping with her husband? Here's the thing, though. If this happened, I guess now if we're adding up the time, 4 months plus 1, 5 months. So it's been 5 months. In that course of time, if they had a somewhat regular sex life before, 5 months is a pretty long drought where you would think he would be getting suspect.
Yeah, if you are at all sleeping with that person, you have to let them know by law. If you have knowledge of, and she has knowledge of it.
Yeah, because she's telling other people.
Mm-hmm. Jay thinks he would try to make it look like the boss is the one that went to the husband. Now, I don't know how you pull that Houdini move off.
Let's see here.
Open up a Gmail in his name that is like just a slight variation of the boss's name.
Yeah. Well, a majority of people are going to say something. The anonymous note seems to be the best. You likely will hear from your former best friend, but just be like, you know what? I gave you ample time to do the right thing. And I'm sorry because I know what's going on. You confess to me. I am not going to be complicit to your bad life decisions. So I think a majority of people would step in, and I understand because your conscience is going off. And I also understand your husband. He's like, my life's peaceful. You know, this is like some kind of episode of the Jersey Shore, and I don't want any part of it.
Yes.
So I get his side of it, but I think that you need to obey your conscience first and foremost, and you need to blow up her spot. That's it.
This is how we do. It's the KVJ Show.